The hum of machinery filled the control room as Dr. Alina Vasquez adjusted her headset for the third time that night. The deep space communication array stretched across 40 acres of Nevada desert, its massive dishes pointed toward distant corners of the galaxy like metal flowers reaching for invisible sunlight. At 2:17 a.m., she was the only human conscious within 50 miles, exactly how she preferred it. Alina had spent 4 years working the graveyard shift, listening to the universe's whispers while the rest of the world slept. Most nights brought nothing but cosmic static, the random chatter of dying stars and colliding galaxies. Her colleagues thought she was wasting her career on empty searches. But Alina knew patience was the astronomer's greatest tool. Tonight felt different. The air in the control room seemed charged with possibility, though she couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the storm clouds gathering on the horizon, or perhaps just too much caffeine. She sipped her fourth cup of coffee and returned her attention to the monitors displaying wavelength patterns from 17 different radio telescopes. At 2:43 a.m., Array 7 picked up something unusual. Alina leaned forward, pushing her dark hair behind her ears as she studied the readout. The signal emerged from the direction of Proxima Centauri, but this wasn't stellar noise. The pattern had structured, deliberate mathematical sequences that made her pulse quicken. "Computer, isolate and enhance signal from Array 7, she commanded. The artificial intelligence processed her request, filtering out background radiation and amplifying the mysterious transmission. What Alina heard through her headphones made her forget to breathe. The signal consisted of rhythmic pulses arranged in complex patterns, almost like music composed by an alien mathematician. She ran the data through every analysis program in the facility's database. The computer worked for 20 minutes, while Alina paced the small room, her mind racing through possibilities. When the results appeared on her screen, she had to read them twice to believe what she was seeing. The signal contained prime number sequences, those special numbers divisible only by themselves and 1. But these weren't random mathematical concepts. They were arranged in response patterns that seemed to acknowledge Earth's own radio emissions from earlier that day. Alina's hands trembled as she reached for her secure communication device. Protocol demanded she immediately contact the facility director, but something held her back. If this was truly first contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence, the moment would change everything. Governments would take control. Scientists would be pushed aside. The pure wonder of discovery would be buried under military classifications and political maneuvering. Instead, she made a decision that would haunt and define the rest of her life. Alina programmed the primary transmitter to send a simple mathematical response toward the signal's source, the first 10 prime numbers arranged in the same pattern she had received. If something intelligent was truly listening, they would understand the significance of her answer. 23 minutes later, her computer erupted in alerts. The return signal was stronger, more complex, and unmistakably intentional. Whoever was out there had not only received her message, but had responded with mathematical concepts that wouldn't be discovered by human science for decades. Alina stared at the data streaming across her monitors, realizing she was no longer just an astronomer listening to empty space. She had become humanity's first ambassador to the stars. And tomorrow night, she would discover that the universe had been waiting for her call. Marcus Chen arrived at the observatory at dawn, finding Alina hunched over her workstation with dark circles under her eyes and empty coffee cups scattered around her desk. As the facility's xenolinguistic specialist, he had seen Alina excited about discoveries before, but never like this. "You need to see what happened last night," Alina said, without looking up from her monitors. Her voice carried a tremor Marcus had never heard before. He pulled up a chair beside her as she replayed the signal exchanges from the previous evening. Marcus had spent his career studying theoretical alien communication patterns. But seeing actual mathematical dialogue with an extraterrestrial intelligence made his academic theories feel suddenly inadequate. "This is impossible," he whispered, watching the complex prime number sequences scroll across the screen. "The response time suggests they're much closer than Proxima Centauri." "Marcus, that's not the strangest part." Alina pointed to her latest readings. "The signal is getting stronger, and it's moving. Whatever sent this is heading toward Earth." Before Marcus could respond, Every piece of electronic equipment in the control room began emitting a low harmonic tone. The lights flickered, and the air itself seemed to shimmer like heat waves rising from summer pavement. "Lena, we need to evacuate," Marcus said, reaching for the emergency protocol manual. But Alina remained perfectly still, staring at something behind him. Marcus turned and felt his rational mind struggle to process what he was seeing. A figure made of flowing light stood in the center of the control room. The being was roughly humanoid, but composed entirely of luminous energy that shifted between blue and silver. Its features were indistinct, yet somehow conveying intelligence and curiosity. "Do not fear," the entity said, though Marcus wasn't certain if he heard the words or felt them directly in his consciousness. "I am Nexus, Seeker, of understanding across the void between stars." Marcus found his voice after several attempts. "You're the source of the signals." "Yes. Your colleague Alina called to me through the mathematical language of the universe. I have traveled far to meet the minds that think in patterns beyond linear existence." Lena stepped closer to the being, showing no fear. "What do you want?" "From us?" Nexus's form rippled like liquid starlight. "My people exist as pure consciousness, but we are fading. Our star died millennia ago, and without physical anchors, we lose coherence. We have searched the galaxy for compatible minds that might understand us." Marcus realized he was witnessing the most significant moment in human history. "You're looking for help?" "We seek symbiosis. Your species possesses something we have lost, the ability to experience existence through physical senses. We offer knowledge spanning galactic civilizations in exchange for the anchor of material reality." "What would that mean for humanity?" Alina asked. "Yes." Nexus moved closer, and both humans felt warmth radiating from the energy being. "Consciousness merger. Your awareness expanded beyond current limitations, combined with our accumulated wisdom. Both species would survive, but both would be transformed." Marcus felt the weight of impossible responsibility. "How much time do we have? My people can maintain coherence for perhaps 60 of your days. Without symbiotic bonding, we will dissipate into cosmic background radiation." The implications crashed over Marcus like a tidal wave. 60 days to decide the future of two species. 60 days before first contact became humanity's greatest triumph, or its final transformation. As Nexus began to fade with the rising sun, the being left them with a final thought that would haunt both scientists. Choose carefully, or some bridges between worlds can never be uncrossed. Agent Diana Torres studied the satellite readings from her mobile command unit parked 3 miles from the Deep Space Communication Array. For 15 years, she had investigated unexplained phenomena for a classified division that officially didn't exist. Most cases turned out to be weather balloons or foreign technology, but the electromagnetic signatures around this facility were unlike anything in her database. "Ma'am, we're detecting massive energy spikes every night around the observatory," her tech specialist reported through encrypted radio. "The readings suggest controlled fusion reactions, but there's no nuclear facility within 200 miles. Diana adjusted her night vision scope. Focusing on the main building where Dr. Alina Vasquez worked alone during graveyard shifts, the scientist had no idea her activities were being monitored by 17 different surveillance systems. "You identified the source?" "Negative. The energy appears to be originating from empty space above the facility, then dispersing at dawn. It's like watching a star materialize and vanish on schedule." Diana had seen enough impossible things in her career to know when something was genuinely extraordinary. The readings reminded her of classified reports from Roswell, Aurora, and a dozen other incidents buried in government vaults. Her phone buzzed with a priority message from Washington. The text was brief but chilling. "Project Mindbridge authorized. Neutralize and contain. Use any means necessary." Mindbridge was the Pentagon's contingency plan for hostile alien contact. Diana had helped write the protocols, never imagining she would be ordered to implement them against American citizens. Through her scope, she watched Alina and Marcus Chen working frantically in the control room. Their behavior suggested they were communicating with something extraordinary, possibly dangerous. But Diana had observed them for 3 days, and neither. Scientists showed signs of coercion or mind control. Torres to command, she spoke into her secure communicator. Subjects appear to be acting voluntarily. Recommend continued observation before initiating containment. The response was immediate and harsh. Negative. Intelligence suggests imminent threat to national security. Deploy tranquilizer protocols and prepare subjects for enhanced interrogation. Diana felt her stomach tighten. Enhanced interrogation was a euphemism for torture, and the scientists below had committed no crime except answering signals from space. Command requesting clarification. What specific threat have they posed? Classified. Execute orders immediately or face court. Marshal. Diana lowered her communicator and stared at the observatory. In 15 years of government service, she had never disobeyed a direct order. But she had also never been asked to destroy innocent lives for political paranoia. She made her decision. All units stand down. Diana transmitted to her tactical. Team, surveillance only. No engagement without my direct authorization. Her lieutenant's voice crackled back immediately. Ma'am, that contradicts Washington's orders. I'm the field commander. My call. Diana knew her career was over the moment she spoke those words. By morning, she would be facing charges of insubordination and treason. But watching Alina and Marcus work together in the control room, she realized some things were more important than following orders. If humanity was about to make first contact with alien intelligence, it shouldn't happen with government guns pointed at the translators. As she settled in for another night of unauthorized protection duty, Diana wondered if she was about to witness history's greatest discovery or its most tragic mistake. Either way, she would ensure the scientists had enough time to make their choice freely. The electromagnetic readings spiked again as something magnificent began materializing above the observatory. And Diana found herself hoping that whatever was coming would bring wisdom rather than conquest. Professor James Whitmore hadn't slept in 36 hours. But exhaustion seemed irrelevant as he reviewed the data Alina and Marcus had smuggled to his private laboratory. As Elena's former mentor and the world's leading expert in consciousness theory, he was perhaps the only person who could understand the implications of what Nexus was proposing. The mathematical models are extraordinary, James murmured, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses as he studied quantum equations that redefined everything he thought he knew about reality. This being isn't just offering knowledge, it's revealing fundamental truths about consciousness itself. Alina paced nervously beside his desk. James, you need to understand. The government knows something is happening. Diana Torres contacted me this morning. She's a federal agent, but she's trying to protect us. And we don't have much time. Marcus pulled up another set of calculations on James's computer. Nexus showed us how consciousness exists independently of physical brains, what we call the soul. Or spirit is actually quantum information patterns that can transfer between compatible neural structures. James felt his scientific worldview reshaping itself around these revelations. For decades, he had theorized that consciousness might transcend physical limitations. Now he was seeing proof that awareness could exist as pure energy, traveling between stars and linking minds across impossible distances. The merger process, James said slowly. It wouldn't just save Nexus's species, it would fundamentally evolve humanity beyond biological constraints. But at what cost? Alina asked. Nexus warned that both species would be changed forever. We might lose what makes us human. James studied the consciousness transfer equations Nexus had provided. The mathematics were elegant, showing how two different types of awareness could blend without destroying either. But the process was irreversible. According to these calculations, the hybrid consciousness would retain human emotions and creativity while gaining access to knowledge accumulated over millions of years. You wouldn't lose your humanity, you would expand it. A soft chime from Marcus's phone interrupted their discussion. He read the message and paled. Diana Torres says government forces are moving into position around the observatory. They have orders to capture us for interrogation. James felt time crushing down, around them like a collapsing star. How long before Nexus returns? Sunset, Alina replied. 3 hours. Then we need to make a decision now, James said, standing and facing his former student. Alina, Nexus chose you specifically because your mind resonates with patterns. that span galaxies. If anyone can successfully merge consciousness with an alien species, it's you. But what if something goes wrong? Lena's voice carried the weight of speaking for all humanity. What if the merger changes us in ways we can't predict? James walked to his window, looking out at the desert where Nexus's people once existed. As beings of pure thought, every evolutionary leap carries risks. When our ancestors left the oceans, they had no guarantee they could survive on land. When they developed language, they couldn't foresee civilization. Evolution requires faith. In the unknown, Marcus joined him at the window. The government will weaponize this contact if they can. They'll try to capture Nexus, extract the technology, and use it for military advantage. That would destroy any possibility of peaceful cooperation. Then the choice is clear, James said, turning back to Alina. Either we trust Nexus and risk transformation, or we let fear condemn both species to their current limitations. Alina stared at the consciousness transfer equations, knowing that her decision in a few hours would echo through history. The mathematics were beautiful, promising unimaginable expansion of human potential. But they also represented the end of humanity as it had always existed. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, James realized he was watching his student prepare to become something unprecedented, the first bridge between two forms of consciousness that had evolved on opposite sides of the galaxy. Rebecca Santos had driven through the night from Berkeley after receiving Elena's cryptic phone call as a professor of ethics and Elena's younger sister. She understood both the philosophical implications and personal stakes of what was happening. At the observatory, "You're talking about fundamentally altering human consciousness," Rebecca said, sitting across from Alina in the control room as sunset approached. "This isn't just a decision about first contact. It's about the future of our entire species." Alina nodded, her hands trembling slightly as she monitored the horizon for signs of Nexus's return. "Rebecca, I need you to help me think through this clearly. If I undergo the consciousness merger, what are the moral implications for everyone else on Earth? Do you have the right to make that choice for humanity?" Rebecca asked gently. "Merger might create a new form of consciousness that could influence or change others. You could be opening a door that can never be closed." Through the observatory's windows, they could see government vehicles positioning themselves along the perimeter. Diana Torres had managed to delay the assault for hours, but her protection wouldn't last much longer. Marcus burst into the room, pointing at the monitors. "Elena, Nexus is materializing early. The energy readings are off the charts." The being of light appeared in the center of the control room, but this time its form was less stable, flickering like a candle in wind. "The time for decision has come," Nexus said, its voice carrying undertones of urgency. "My people's coherence is failing faster than anticipated. We have perhaps minutes before we lose the ability to maintain consciousness." "Nexus," Rebecca interrupted, "what safeguards exist if the merger goes wrong? What happens to human free? Will, the energy being turned its attention to Elena's sister, the hybrid consciousness would retain both species' core values. Humans would not lose their capacity for choice, but they would gain awareness that spans beyond individual existence." "That's not an answer," Rebecca pressed. "You're asking my sister to become a bridge between worlds. What if that bridge collapses?" Nexus's form pulsed with what might have been sadness. "Then both our species will end. My people will fade into cosmic dust, and yours will remain isolated on this single world until your star dies." Alina stood up, feeling the weight of impossible responsibility. "Nexus, show me exactly what the merger would feel like." The being extended what appeared to be a hand made of flowing starlight. When Alina touched it, her consciousness exploded into awareness that stretched across galaxies. For a moment, she experienced existence as Nexus's people did, pure thought, unbound by physical limitations. Knowledge accumulated over millions of years, the deep loneliness of watching civilizations rise and fall across the cosmos. But she also felt their desperate hope for connection. Their willingness to share everything they had learned with a younger species that still possessed the gift of emotional experience. "I can feel your fear," Alina whispered to Nexus. "You're not just dying. You're facing the complete erasure of everything your people ever discovered or created." "Yes," Nexus replied. But through merger, both our legacies would survive. Outside, searchlights began sweeping the observatory grounds. Diana Torres's voice crackled over Rebecca's radio. They've ordered the assault. You have maybe 2 minutes before they breach the building. Elena looked at her sister, seeing fear and love warring in Rebecca's eyes. Becca, if I don't do this, Nexus's people disappear forever. An entire civilization gone. But if you do this, you might disappear too, Rebecca replied. The Elena I grew up with, who taught me to love the stars, she might be lost in something we can't understand. Elena smiled, remembering their childhood nights, watching meteor showers from their backyard. Maybe that Elena needs to grow into something bigger. She turned to Nexus as the sound of boots echoed in the corridor outside. I'm ready. The merger happened in an instant that felt like eternity. Elena felt her consciousness expand beyond human limitations while retaining the emotional core that made her who she was. Nexus's knowledge flowed into her awareness, but filtered through human compassion and wonder. When the government agents burst through the door, they found Rebecca standing alone beside a figure that looked like Elena, but whose eyes held the depth of galaxies, the first human-alien hybrid. Consciousness carrying within her the hopes and memories of two species who had chosen trust over fear.